Here I'd like to show you how to bring your audio into Pro Tools from your editing software, whether that's Avid or Premiere or Resolve or whatever. When you hit the point where you've finished your picture edit and you're ready to start doing your sound design work. Out of those programs, as is shown in other tutorials, what you're going to come out with is an AAF and a QuickTime Movie. The QuickTime Movie is going to be your video reference for Pro Tools, so you can see what's happening at various points. And the AAF file is going to wrap up all of your audio into one giant file, and also all the information about how it's been put together will be in there. So you just need that AAF file to get all of your audio back and basically pick up where you left off. So I want to show you what that looks like. I'm in Pro Tools, and what I'm going to do, you might think you would create a new session and try to import your audio or something like that, and there is a way to do this that way, but the easiest way to get started is to go File, Open Session, and I'm going to find that AAF file I created and tell Pro Tools that that AAF file is a Pro Tools session. And so what it's going to do is it's going to take all that information about the sequence and how things are supposed to be put together and create tracks with all of that and bring in all the audio and put it all in the right places. So I'll find where I put my AAF file. In this case, I have one right here. Say open, and it's going to realize it has to create a new Pro Tools session. So I'll give it a name. And as always, when I'm working in Pro Tools in our Sound Labs, I need to make sure I know where it is going, because that is the one thing file management wise that is hard to do on these systems because they're not indexed, is if I lose a file, I can't search for it to find it. So I really need to know where things are going. In this case, it's going to my audio drive Pro Tools Sessions folder, which is a perfectly good place for it. If I needed it to go somewhere else, I could click into here, find the folder I want, and say use current folder. So I'll hit create, and it's going to create that session, and then it's going to bring up this window, which is going to show me information about that AAF file. So in the top left, I have information about how long it is, what the frame rate is, and stuff like that. In this middle left section, it has some options of what I want to do with it, and what I would like to do is copy from the source media. So I don't want it to be reading out of this AAF file all the time. I want it to take all the audio that's in there and unpack it and give me those as plain old audio files. And then down here at the bottom, it's going to show me all the tracks that are available. And the default is to bring each of those in as a new track. So if I had 6 audio tracks in my Avid session or Premiere session, I'm going to have 6 tracks in here. Lastly, down here, there are some options for audio work that you may have done in your editor and whether you want to bring those in or not. If you had adjusted volumes on your clips or overall on a track, I can bring that information in. I will say personally, I usually like to uncheck these and just start from scratch with the clean audio instead of perhaps having work that was done by the picture editor that I don't like and I don't know where they've adjusted some things and I'm kind of fighting against that. I'd rather just start with all the audio clips in there cleanly. So I set that, I'll hit OK, and it builds my session, and you can see it's got all my audio clips in there as it finds them and builds out the waveforms. They're all edited exactly the way that they were in my Avid session, and so I'm really ready to pick up where I left off and start doing my sound design. Now the one thing that's missing here is it doesn't have the video, so if I want a picture reference of what's happening on screen, I will need to bring that in separately. All I have to do is go File, Import, Video, and then I can find wherever my video file is. In this case, it's probably on the video drive. Bring in my video file. I want it to go at the start, and it will give me this option of do I want to import the audio from the file. So when I exported out of Premiere or Avid, I probably made a QuickTime that already has audio in it. Now I don't want to use that audio because that's just the mix of whatever stuff I had in my editor sound-wise, and it's all the stuff mushed together. I'd rather have these original tracks like I have. But I like to import the audio as a reference just to make sure everything comes through okay. So I'll turn that on, hit OK. Here's my video file. and it's going to ask where to put the audio. And if I just hit use current folder, by default it's going to store it with the rest of this project. It's going to automatically do that for me. You can see this has been set to Pro Tools Sessions folder, and then my project folder, and then the audio files folder. So I can just hit use current folder and that'll go right where I already wanted it. So now I have my video in, I have the audio that came along with it, and then all I'm going to do is just mute this because I don't actually want to be hearing that. I don't want to use it in my mix, but now I have it in there in case there's some issue as I'm getting into the edit and maybe some sound I'm like, why is this here? Did this come through correctly? Was there an error? And I want to double check that this is what the picture editor actually wanted to be here. Now I could always decide to change that in sound design, but this gives me a reference if I'm like, oh, am I sure this sound was supposed to be here? Let me just unmute this, solo the original sound for a second, listen to what came out of the picture editor, and then I can say, yes, that is supposed to be there, or, oh no, that sound isn't there, it's somewhere else, so I do have some sort of error glitch that I need to fix, something got moved to the wrong place. So it gives me that reference of at least where they were coming out of the picture edit. Once I'm done checking that, I'll turn that off. And now you can see, as I click through this, it's keeping the picture exactly synced up with the audio that goes with that, and I'm ready to do my sound design. If I've been working in Pro Tools and I've finished all my work, I have everything sounding the way I want, and I'm ready to get my soundtrack back into wherever I am marrying the picture with the sound. Usually in our workflow, that's going to be back in DaVinci Resolve, where you've been doing your coloring, and we'll just bring the sound back in there and then have everything together. What I don't want to try to do is have to bring in all these individual files and all the effects and stuff, some of which may not be processed properly by other programs. So what I'm going to do out of Pro Tools is mix all of this session down into one final WAV file that I can then just bring into my editor, get rid of all my other sound, and I just lay that final mix soundtrack in. What I would suggest is you select the entire length of the movie, and an easy way to do this is just select your video track, and then you know you'll have from exactly the beginning of the video to exactly the end. Alternately, I could use my cursor tool and just highlight the portion I want. So for purposes of this demo, let's just highlight a brief little period here of a few seconds. I'm going to go under File, and one tricky thing to remember in Pro Tools is you might think you would go to Export, because in most software that's where we would go to get something out of that software. But in this case, I'm actually going to go to Bounce To, and I'm going to say Bounce to Disk. And I'll get this set of options. I need to choose how to output it, where I'm outputting from. Normally you're just going to output your stereo mix, but I could output from a different source, a bus, or a different output. And do I want it to be multiple mono tracks? So for instance, the left channel would be one file, the right channel would be another file, or I can just do an interleave stereo track, which will be one file that includes the left and the right. Make sure I have the right bit depth and sample rate. Give it a name, choose where it's going to go. And I like to turn off this offline option so that I can hear it as it outputs and give me one last chance to make sure everything sounds right. If you check the offline box, sometimes it will process a little bit faster. If you have it unchecked, it will always be real time. So if your movie is 5 minutes long, it will take 5 minutes to output. If your movie is 3 hours long, it will take 3 hours to output, because what it literally does in an online bounce, if that box is not checked, is it's going to play through the movie and basically record what is playing. So I hit bounce.
This is better than Slim.
It records this. And then it's done, and now I have that bounced file that I can take back into my other software.